to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking to my ball. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Good evening, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the post-game wrap-up show here at DolphinsTalk.com. I'm your host, Michael Leva, joined as always by Tom Ernestine. After the Miami Dolphins keep hope alive with a 29-17 win over the San Francisco 49ers. Look, the percentages of them of making the playoffs are even less than it was probably last week, but there's still a chance, Tom.
There's always a chance when it comes to the Miami Dolphins. They drag us along to the finish line for the inevitable failure, potentially. But today was a good showing overall. And the Dolphins got the win at home to wrap up their 2024 campaign at Hard Rock Stadium. And, they keep hope alive. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, we're going to break down the game, talk about everything, who played well, who did it. Talk about some of the big takeaways from this game here as we are a few days away from Christmas. But before we do any of that, as always, a quick word from our sponsor.
The DolphinsTalk.com podcast network is sponsored by Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, Florida Panthers, and all of the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a birthday gift, or the newest hat to hit the market of your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive, Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? No worries. Visit Caneswear.com to shop their inventory from the comfort of your home, and they'll ship it to you. International fans, too. Caneswear.com is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com. Caneswear.com.
All right. With the inactives for this game, really no surprises at all with the inactives. And Isaiah Wynn was rotating in and out at guard this game with Liam Eichenberg. So there was that. But otherwise, we kind of knew everyone who was going to play. No Waddle, which wasn't a shock. He was pretty much listed as doubtful with very slim chance of playing. But Tom, what are some of your big picture thoughts here from this 29-17 Dolphins victory?
Well, the big picture thought right out of the gate is that they're still in it, right? Mathematically, they're still alive. That's the big picture. In the overall landscape of the game, it really mirrored, just like last year's game on Christmas when they played the Dallas Cowboys, right? The offense was moving the ball, had to settle for field goals, a lot of penalties on the offensive line that set them back, that really forced those field goals. Tua had some nice plays, had the touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill. The ground game got going late, and clearly with Devon Achane's big run at the end to seal the deal over the 49ers. But I thought it was a good defensive effort. Jason Sanders was money, just like he was last year against the Cowboys. He made all his kicks. I believe 5, 6, 7 kicks total, 5 field goals. Yep, 5 field goals and 2 extra points. I mean, the script was almost identical. But in the end, the Dolphins again win the game, and they now look ahead to a 4:00 showing against the Cleveland Browns next week. The mistake by the lake, usually that is a signal for bad weather. So we'll see how things go. It's going to be a frigid game. It usually is in Cleveland that time of the year. So it's a big game in the sense that it's the same script that has been written. The Miami Dolphins, late December, early January game on the road in the cold with your season on the line. What are you going to do for us? But good win overall for the Miami Dolphins. Couldn't be happier that they won. But everything else that they needed to have happen this weekend, just like last week, fell by the wayside. So they got no help, but they did themselves a favor by winning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to me, this was the most complete game that the Miami Dolphins played all year. You had the quarterback. Tua was 22 of 34. Solid showing, no turnovers there. They still can't push the ball downfield as an offense, which is a big problem, probably heading into next year more so than now, because who cares now? But they still couldn't push the ball downfield. You had, excuse me, Achane was Miami's first 100-yard rusher of the season. I think he had like 120. 120 all-purpose yards. Yeah, he had 190 all-purpose yards today. I was outstanding. Jonnu Smith, another good day. They had 3 sacks on defense. I know San Francisco's down a lot of players, especially on offense. They're beat up. I get it. And with San Fran, they weren't even playing all out this game because before kickoff, they were eliminated from the playoffs. But for Miami, it's a nice win. It's a complete win. One of the few games all year where they showed up on offense and defense and special teams. You don't have many of those. And this was, now, look, as a fan, you take that as a positive, but it's also a negative where, we shouldn't have to wait till week 16 against a team that's kind of dead for that to happen. So, yes, you're happy it happened, but you're also kind of frustrated it took this long to have one of those complete games. There were some flaws in this game from Miami. Mike McDaniel was one of the most god-awful challenge calls I've seen in a while. That ball was clearly on the ground. He's challenging a call, which the referees call it an interception. Then referee assistance or whatever they call it. Nope, not an interception. I'm going to challenge it anyway. Mike, you have zero chance of winning that. Horrible. It loses another one. Still dead last in the NFL over the past 3 seasons when it comes to this. And God, was Javon Holland bad today. He was bad last week. He's been bad all year. He was brutal today. And it's gotten to the point where fans of the Dolphins were wondering, I hope we keep him. I think fans are now like, let him go. Don't re-sign him. No, and look, I'm sure he's going to go somewhere else and flourish and be great. I'm okay with that because what I've seen from him this year is not good. This was a guy who was putting up memes after Vic Fangio was fired, which is fine. But if you're going to run your mouth and do that, then you can't have a season like this. Okay? You can't have it both ways. You're essentially Kurt Cignetti talking trash on College Game Day, and 3 hours later you're punting in the fourth quarter at midfield while you're losing with your tail between your legs. That's Javon Holland. You're going to put up memes and mock Vic Fangio when he's being shoved out the door. You better play better than you have this year. And last week was bad. This week was worse, and it's been bad all year. So that's some of the bad. But, once again, a complete game. They won. Whatever slim percentage chance they have is still out there. I don't think it's going to happen because the Colts have the easiest schedule known to mankind. But it is what it is. And I give them credit. They haven't quit on this coach. They play hard every week. It was just it was such a solid performance. One thing as a fan, you're just frustrated. Why can't they play this way in September and October, even some parts of November? Why does it take till now to see all 3 phases show up on the same day? And that's part of the Dolphins. That's just who they are.
It's the MO. It's the MO of the Miami Dolphins franchise. It always has been for this team when it comes to late in the season. But the one thing that stood out, what you said, Mike, was they play hard for their coach, right? And that's one of the things. And again, I love the banner, by the way. We have to make comment. The banner flown before the game today at Hard Rock.
Well-deserved.
Stadium. Well-deserved. It needed to happen. So whoever did it, thank you. Eyes are on the sky. Guess who doesn't care what's up there? Stephen Ross. He doesn't care. It's how he is as an owner. He is loyal to a fault. I think, again, we talked about this last week. We're not going to get into it because, again, it is a win for the Miami Dolphins. But we talked about it last week, Mike. He's loyal to a fault. There's no changes coming. The general manager will be here next year. I knew from the start the head coach was not going to be fired regardless. I think what you said, they play hard for him.
He is the biggest problem with this team. People can look at Grier. People can look at the quarterback. Trust me, they're both problems. Mike McDaniel's problem number one because, again, we can celebrate in March when they sign some guys We can celebrate the final week of April when they draft some guys. Everyone's going to have hope. Training camp, you hear, oh, this guy was good. Mini camp, oh, this guy was good. You get to September week 1, he's the same dipshit on the sideline who doesn't know what he's doing. And there's a picture, Tom, Sun Sentinel, I just retweeted it. Stephen Ross is on the sideline as this game ended, celebrating like they just won the Super Bowl. This guy, him and Tom Garfinkel are happier than a pig in shit. And that's the problem. The standards and the bar set so low, they're celebrating this like it's a big deal. Celebrate it, whatever.
Yeah. But we're going to be doing this all again next year. So let's strap up and get ready to do it.
Yeah,
No changes.
No,
No changes. But
we're going to be here to hold them accountable, though.
You know, yes. There has to be accountability. I think it took way too long to get to this point where Liam Eichenberg has shown the bench, but
he played most of the game today too.
He did. I think giving Isaiah Wynn some, reps is good for the long haul. He did start over Eichenberg, so you can see the writing on the wall, but having them continue to rotate, this is for Isaiah Wynn's first game in over 365 days. So I can understand that he's got to get into game shape. I think we'll see more of him against Cleveland next week. But it took to this point to replace Liam Eichenberg in the starting lineup, but you had nobody else behind him, right? So that's why you had to stick with this guy for so long, who has been so bad overall. But it was good to see Armstead back. It was good to see Lamb back. The pass protection was there. The ground game got moving in the right direction. But accountability, right? You finally put Liam on the bench at the start. Yes, he was rotating in, but again, good sign. The next good sign is let McDaniel be the head coach. Let someone else be the offensive play caller. It's not going to happen, but that is step in another direction. Mike McDaniel's got to focus on the full game and not what's on his cheat sheet. That's all there is to it.
And I guess after the game, wow, this is an eventful press conference. So I guess Tyreek Hill made references, which I've been saying, screaming all offseason since August, on the veteran rest days and getting guys more practice reps. And I actually asked Mike McDaniel about that. And of course, it was a word salad answer. But yeah, you want to know why they're soft? You want to know why they have all these injuries? Nobody practices at all in mini camp, training camp. And like week 1's like their first, all these other teams have built up a callus and they're ready and they're in game shape, ready to go. Miami isn't. And, Tyreek, as much as a clown he is, I'm glad he said something because he's the only one who said it. And that's the number one problem with this team. Every time someone gets hurt, you got fans these days want to fire like the trainers, like it's their fault. Like it's not the trainer's fault, folks. It's not the trainer's fault. Once some guys are going to get hurt, it's football guys get hurt. But if you're seeing more injuries than normal, it's because these guys aren't working hard enough. And it's not because they don't want to. You literally have the coaching staff saying, don't practice today. It's like, you can't do that. And good for Tyreek for saying it, and good for the media to asking Mike McDaniel, even though he's not going to give a competent answer. But make no mistake, this win today, and if they beat the Browns next week with Thompson, whoever its quarterback is, who's hot garbage, and even if, pretty much if they win the last 3 and miss the playoffs, that means they've won 4 of their last 5, 7 of their last 9. Do not let that fool you. That people are going to, because then you're going to see the spin come out from the organization, the team, and some of the idiot fans in this fan base. Oh, they won 7 of their last 9. They won 4 of the last 5. What are you so upset about? Yeah, because they went to Green Bay and got freaking embarrassed. They went to Houston and got embarrassed. And those are the only 2 games that mattered. I don't care what you do against Cleveland with a third-string quarterback, or what you do at the Jets with Rodgers, who are a mess, or the San Francisco team who didn't care today because they were eliminated moments before the ball was kicked off, or barely winning versus the Jets at home in a game you should have lost. So don't be fooled that if they win the next 2 and end this year with 9 wins, and they weren't that bad, really. No, they were. They really, really were that bad this year. And don't let these meaningless games at the end fool you into anything.
You forgot the biggest piece of the excuse train, Mike. It was week 2.
Yeah, well,
that's
his own fault. Not sliding.
No, I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah.
But that's what's going to be used. 2 and
absolutely
games. They went 1 and 3. Imagine if he played. They were 2 and 2. They were 3 and 1. Those are the games that were lost, Mike. That was the season. If you want to pinpoint anything, you go on this run, finish the season strong. That's great. You can go to week 3, week 4, week 5, week 7. Those were the games that may have cost the Dolphins any sort of shot at the postseason. Not even just late in the season against Houston and Green Bay, like you mentioned. But if they could have took care of their business, had competent quarterback play out of the backups, we might be having a different conversation going into next week. But here we are.
Yeah, I mean, is what it is. But what this picture of Ross celebrating on his side, it almost makes you wish they kind of lost. Because nothing's going to change.
I got it. You said
it's him.
You retweeted it?
Yeah, I did. It's from the Sun Sentinel. They got this photo. This guy is celebrating. He's fist pumping, smile. I mean, it's like they just won the whole damn thing. And, and that's the problem. He's just, they're good enough. That's it. They're good enough. Look at this guy. They're good enough. Well, we're going to win 7, 8 games. Well, now they're at 7. We're going to win 8 or 9 games this year. Ha! Mind you, you're in the playoffs the last 2 years. Now you regress. Mind you, your head coach is a buffoon. Your general manager is even worse. But yeah, let's celebrate. We beat the 49ers in a 4th string running back without their number 1 wide receiver or number 2, however you rank them. Yeah, let's celebrate that.
I will celebrate Stephen Ross for what he's done in South Florida, but how he runs the organization is completely. He's a smart businessman. But when it comes to the football aspect of it, you got to question a lot of things. And yes, in the chat right here, I know
folks are celebrating money. It's 100%.
Well, yeah. Look at how much money he brings in on just the F1 race. Just the F1 race. Not to mention the Miami Open that occurs there for 2+ weeks.
I had earlier today, prior to kickoff, I spoke to the Big O, Orlando Elzagari. And I go, he Dolphins fan for life, lived down there his whole life, huge fan. I found the one scenario which he will stop being a Miami Dolphins fan. And I said to him, the Miami Dolphins fire Grier and McDaniel, which he would like. Then they hire Mike Tannenbaum and Rick Spielman, 2 former general managers, or in the case of Tannenbaum, VP, to lead the search for the next general manager and head coach. The Big O said, I'm done. I'm out if that happens. I can't do it.
No, the Jets have those guys tied up. It's fine.
Well, I think they're working with a few teams too. I'm not sure if it's just the Jets. I think there's a couple teams they've been employed by now.
Oh, God. All right. You ready to get in this game?
Yeah, let's get through it. We can keep it pithy. We don't have to spend a lot of time because I still think the season's over, folks. I'm not going to get too excited here.
The Dolphins forced a punt on the opening drive. I was actually surprised that the 49ers didn't go for it. It was like a half an inch, but they punted it away. It didn't matter. The Dolphins punted on their drive. 49ers punt. Dolphins get an 8-play, 44-yard drive, 4 minutes off the clock. Open with a 5-yard pass to Durham Smythe. Devon Achane goes for 7 in the first down. Then he goes for 11 on a reception for a first down. And then Achane lining up in the slot as a wide receiver gets a 20-yard completion from Tua and a first down. Very nice throw over the middle of the field. And Achane looking the part like Jaylen Waddle, to be honest. I thought for a second that was like Malik Washington or Eric Guzakama until I saw 28 stand. I'm like, wait a minute. Amazing. Mostert goes for a yard, 3rd and 9, Tua incomplete to Tyreek Hill. Jason Sanders' 44-yard field goal is good. All right, let's talk about it, Mike. 3rd and 9 to Tyreek Hill. Incomplete.
It was tipped. I can't get on him for that. There's a lot of things I can get on him for.
No, that one wasn't tipped.
I thought
that was the first one. That was the one you just
one?
flat out dropped over the
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, look, here's the deal with Tyreek.
He's got a lot of stuff going on.
He's got a lot of stuff going on, and he's going to be here next year, so I'm not going to waste much energy thinking about him. If you have hope that they can cut him or they will cut him or trade him, they can't. The contract is immovable. Now, next year will be his final year in Miami, so there's that, and that's 100%. Next year will be his final year in Miami, but he's here next year. That's the point. So,
yeah,
is what it is.
Well, hopefully he has a good off season. Gets his. He's
already got a court date on the books for the middle of next year, so I don't know how good the off season is going to be.
The 49ers answered on a 10-play, 70-yard drive, ending in a touchdown, 4:16 off the clock. They did go for it on 4th and 1 at the Dolphins 40 and get 4 yards and a first down. On that particular play, too many men on the field. Mike McDaniel standing next to the referee, watching two players run off the field at the same time, and did not use a timeout to stop the play and get set up. I know you got thoughts on that one.
Say that again, sorry.
I know you have thoughts on the Mike McDaniel not calling a timeout. Not even the challenge. Not calling a timeout with two defenders running off the field, knowing it's too many men on the field.
Yeah, he's not a head coach. You don't know what the hell's going on. He's probably thinking about the next. Here's the deal. The Miami Dolphins are run by an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator. Mike McDaniel just has responsibility to call timeouts and throw the red flag. He's not a head coach. They think you have someone run the offense, someone run the defense. That doesn't work. It's never worked. It never will work. So he probably wasn't even paying attention, honestly. And that's the problem.
49ers get a pass completed to Deebo Samuel that gets down to the Dolphins' 18-yard line. Two Dolphin defenders right there. Nobody made the tackle.
They can't tackle.
Incredible. Starting the second quarter. Starting the second quarter, Brock Purdy opened the quarter sacked by Zach Sealer, his 8.5 sacks on the season. And on the very next play, Deebo Samuel, once again, not tackled, touchdown. Jordan Poyer run over. Javon Holland tried to rip the ball from his hands instead of trying to bring him down. And Samuel goes in for the touchdown, and they go up 7-3. We talked about at the top about Javon Holland, but the safety play this year, Mike, has been abysmal. And I'm surprised how decent the Dolphins defense has been overall from a statistic perspective, knowing how bad both of those guys are playing on the back end.
Yeah, since the Jets game a couple weeks ago, which was an abysmal day for the defense. I mean, they made Aaron Rodgers look like 2015 Aaron Rodgers. Adams looked like a Pro Bowler. I mean, that was a horrible day. But since then, the last 8 quarters, defense has been pretty good. They're good against Houston, who is a playoff team. San Fran, much as they got some guys hurting out, but still San Fran, they got a lot of talent. Defense the last 8 quarters has been very, very good. And I think, once again, next week versus the Browns, no Nick Chubb. They're playing a quarterback who just isn't any good. They'll probably have another strong 4 quarters versus the Brownies. So, they're playing well. Now, again, you watch the Packers game, they didn't play well. And that Jets game, they didn't play well. So they've been kind of helter-skelter up and down all year. But the past 8 quarters, they've been good. And I think they'll have another solid game next week. We'll see what happens with Kendall Fuller. It didn't look good there. I don't know. I know he left the game. Jordan Brooks, I think, got back in the game after his injury. He was kicked, it looked like. So they're healthy enough on that side of the ball.
One thing on Anthony Weaver, I think he's earned his day. He is going to get head coaching interviews around the NFL. To say he might get a job is up in the air, but he's going to have his opportunity to land a head coaching job in this league. If he doesn't, obviously he's back with Miami next year, and I think they're going to add some pieces that he wants to bring in defensively. So I think we're going to see some addition if he's still here. Now, if he does get a head coaching job, God bless him, congratulations. But then it'll be the 4th defensive coordinator in 4 years for Mike McDaniel next year. So hopefully Weaver stays. The guys clearly like him, and they are playing very well for the most part over the season.
I'll say this real quick. 2 things. One, I'd kind of be surprised if he got a head coaching job, just because, like I said, it has been up and down this year, the defense. I like Weaver. I hope he's back next year, but I'd be surprised. Number 2, change on that side of the ball. Tom, light a bomb, throw it. They're blowing it up. They aren't bringing back, Holland's gone probably. Jordan Poyer is gone. Kendall Fuller's due $8.5 million. He gone. Cam Smith's a bust. You can't count on him. So you got Ramsey in your secondary. That's pretty much it. They need a whole new secondary. Linebackers, Walker's a free agent. You want to sign as a backup, great. He ain't a starter. He's probably going to be gone. Ogba's gone. Campbell's probably gone. Benito Jones, nice play today. Gave everyone a laugh. He probably gone. They're going to have an entire new outside of Zach Sealer, Chop Robinson, Ramsey, Jaylen Phillips. I even think Chubb's probably gone. Outside of those 4, they're going to have a whole new and Jordan Brooks. Outside of those 5, you're going to have a whole new defense, because that side of the ball, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. And they need fresh legs on that side of the ball.
They got to get younger
Badly.
for sure.
They got to get younger, more athletic. They need fresh legs. So that side of the ball is going to get a lot of work. Offense needs work. Offensive line, number 2 quarterback, wide receiver, like someone for depth. But on defense is where the heavy lifting is.
Yeah. Dolphins did answer the touchdown with a field goal. 11-play, 49-yard drive. Started with a deep pass to Tyreek Hill for 24 yards and a first down. Then an 8-yard run from Devon Achane gets him in field goal range. Tua finds Jonnu Smith for 8 yards. Achane for 7 down to the 22. Tua then found Malik Washington for 5 on 3rd and 3 for a first down. And this is where the wheels fall off. Raheem Mostert goes for 4 yards and an offensive holding penalty on Robert Jones. Pushes him back to the 24. It's 1st and 17. Incomplete to Malik Washington. Tua found Malik Washington on 2nd and 17 for 4 yards, and then Tua had to throw the pass away as pressure was coming in his face, and settled for a 38-yard field goal to be trailing 7-6. The 49ers go 3 and out. Brock Purdy on this particular drive, let's see here. He scrambled for 1 yard on 3rd and 15. They had false start to put him back to 3rd and 10. I'm sorry, 3rd and 15, and they didn't get anything out of it. Had a false start on the punt. 4th.
Tom, you're breaking up kind of bad here. You're going in and out, so I might take over. Where are we now in this game?
The Dolphins get the ball back and go in for a touchdown on the next drive.
So that puts them up 13-7?
Yes.
Or you passed? Okay. That puts them up 13-7. So you just went through that drive, right?
I just went through the 49ers drive before the punt.
Okay.
Before the touchdown. So it was 7-6.
Now you're coming in clear. So why don't you try again?
All right. So the Dolphins get a touchdown drive on their very next possession. 8 plays, 68 yards, took 4:33 off the clock. Achane for 7, opening up the drive. Mostert gets his legs going, had a run for 13, then a run for 21. The first one was a reception. It gets down to the 26-yard line. Tua finds Malik Washington for 19 yards, and it's 1st and goal. And the drive is capped off with a Tua Tagovailoa pass on 3rd and goal to Tyreek Hill for the touchdown. The extra point good. Dolphins go up by the score of 13-7. The 49ers answer on their possession, getting a 21-yard field goal. They had it 1st and goal from the 7. Deebo Samuel ran for 4 yards and then 2 straight incompletions. Good hold by the Dolphins defense to maintain their lead. And that wrapped up the first half. The Dolphins got a couple plays off, but it stalled out with no timeouts, and they go into the half 13-10.
Yeah. Nice to have lead at halftime. I thought, once again, they played well today. And in the first half, they really didn't give San Francisco much. But as we enter halftime, a shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. Wherever you listen to this podcast, the Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, Audible, subscribe. Make sure you don't miss an episode. If you're watching right now on YouTube, I see we got a lot of people watching live. Smash that like button for us. Hit that little thumbs up. That does us a huge favor. And wherever you and also we got to talk about Mellow Seltzer here. The seltzer that's taking America by storm. Mellow THC Seltzer comes in wild berry, grapefruit, strawberry, mango, and half and half. A mix of madness, genius, and a pinch of chaos to bring you the best sips in the universe. With 5 milligrams of THC in this drink, Mellow is revolutionizing the way you unwind. Each sip is designed to gently lift your spirits and ground your senses. Go to mellowseltzer.com for information on how and where to purchase.
All right. The Dolphins open up and get a field goal from Jason Sanders. They get an unnecessary roughness call for, no reason why Hufanga hit Malik Washington. Get it down into San Francisco territory, but a penalty on Aaron Brewer after a reception to Tyreek Hill to get it to the 21. Push the Dolphins back 3rd and 14 to the 44. They get a 8-yard reception to Achane to get him in field goal range, and Jason Sanders once again buries it. And the Dolphins go up 16-10. The 49ers miss their field goal on their drive, and the Dolphins get a 9-play, 54-yard drive, took 4:45 off the clock, and it was a Jason Sanders 33-yard field goal. And once again, the Dolphins on 3rd and 1 could not complete a pass, and the short yardage issues continue for the Miami Dolphins, but they did settle for the field goal, and Jason Sanders, once again, Mike, money.
Yeah, he had a nice season for the most part. Was player of the month last month, so really can't complain. But overall, once again, another big performance from him today.
49ers get back into the game, down 19-10. They go 9 plays, 60 yards. This was the Deebo Samuel drive right here. Jordan Brooks did return on that drive, Mike, this one in particular. So he did leave, but he did come back on that 3rd down play that was converted on a George Kittle reception for 11 yards. On 2nd and goal from the 2, Eric Saubert with a touchdown reception from Brock Purdy. And now the game is interesting, 19-17, as we get into the 4th quarter. Dolphins punt, 49ers punt. Dolphins get a field goal. I got a question on this drive for you, Mike. 3rd and 3.
Oh, God, don't even talk to me about this.
3rd and 3. We have to. 3rd and 3. Mostert gets a handoff and loses 2 yards, and the Dolphins settle for a field goal with 2:13 left on the clock. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, one of the, it's funny. I had someone today on Twitter, and in the middle of this game, told me I'm wrong about Mike McDaniel. He's just like Bill Belichick. I almost fell out of the chair on the live stream watching this. Folks, he couldn't carry Bill Belichick's jock. Okay. And it's like this. You got the 3rd and 3. Your odds of making the playoffs are slim and none anyways. Yep. And you run the ball with a backup running back literally right into the heart of the defense. When, again, you got a $232 million quarterback who is having a pretty good day, and you don't put the ball in his hands or trust him to complete a pass to get a first down, which pretty much would end the game. Just not a bad play call, an awful play call.
Yeah, I questioned it too. I don't understand why you're setting up for a field goal. You got the kill shot opportunity to either, obviously, number one, score a touchdown on the drive, or number two, just flat out run out the clock.
Yeah.
Right? 49ers were they had their timeouts. So to not really put a better play in place instead of just running up the middle with Raheem Mostert, it didn't make sense. If you're on the other side of the 2-minute warning, I could understand that you want them to waste the timeout. But you're on the wrong side of the 2-minute warning and you're calling a run play, and it didn't work. I would have rather seen a play action pass. I'd rather see, something in the middle of the field, whatever, not a run up the gut on the wrong side of the 2-minute warning. I just didn't understand the logic. I don't know if anyone asked him that question yet, but hopefully he gets asked that tomorrow about that play, because that was a head scratcher. But Jason Sanders, once again, hits a 48-yard field goal, because you can put your trust in the kicker, because kicker's been lights out, especially at home this year. But the Dolphins did end the game. Brock Purdy goes to Juwan Jennings on the last play before the 2-minute warning for 17 yards. And on the other side of the 2-minute warning, Calais Campbell gets into Brock Purdy's grill, forces a bad pass. It was intercepted by Kader Kohu, and the Miami Dolphins, instead of just running the clock out, they were going to run the clock out, but Devon Achane found a wide open gap on the right side and took it 50 yards to the house for a Miami Dolphins touchdown. The Dolphins defense held the 49ers on their possession on downs, and then the kneel down to end the game. The Miami Dolphins win 29-17 to push their record to 7-8. The team stats in this game, as you would expect for two coaches from the same tree, it was almost an identical type performance from both offenses. So Dolphins 22 first downs, the 49ers 20. Dolphins were 4 for 12 on 3rd down, 49ers 5 for 13. Dolphins ran 64 plays for 381 yards on 11 drives. Call it 10 because the last drive was a kneel down. 49ers 61 plays for 374 yards on 10 drives. 49ers averaged 6.1 yards per play. The Dolphins averaged 6 yards per play. Quarterbacks. Brock Purdy, 26 of 40 for 323 yards. He did have a touchdown. He did have an interception. He averaged 6.8 yards per pass. Tua was 22 of 34 for 215 yards, 6.3 yards per pass. He also had a touchdown. Finally, the ground game got going for the Miami Dolphins. 30 carries, 166 yards, 5.5 yards per rush. Their first 100-yard game on the ground since Austin Jackson was hurt. And Achane was the first Dolphins running back to get 100 yards this season on the ground. So kudos on a great performance. The 49ers, 18 rushes for 81 yards. They averaged 4.5 per clip. 49ers made the red zone 5 times, only cashed in twice. The Dolphins in the red zone 3 times, cashed in once. Penalties, 49ers 11 for 90, Dolphins 6 for 45. They did have the interception, the only turnover of the game, and time of possession 33:06 for Miami, 26:54 for the San Francisco 49ers. It is time to give out some game balls, Mike.
Devon Achane, 190 all-purpose yards, the big touchdown at the end to seal the deal. Achane has been the best player on this team, or at least on the offense. But I'd probably say the team all season, most consistent, should be team MVP. Just fantastic today. 7.1 yards average running the ball. Devon Achane gets my game ball.
I'm with you on that. The Devon Achane had a fantastic game overall. He is really blossoming as a dual threat running back. You know, he started to do so last year, his rookie season. This year, he's been the focal point as a running back on this team. I don't even know how many receptions he has this year. I think he's got to be at 70 plus at this point. So, and all-purpose yards, he's trending to I would say he's trending to be about 1,600 to 1,700 all-purpose yards this year.
He should be there right now. Well, let's see what he's got this year. Right now, does it have today's stats? It doesn't have today's stats in it, but heading into this game, he has 641 rushing. So what? 641, 760 rushing.
Yep.
And 509 receiving, 509 add another 75, say 580 and what I say, 580 and 760.
Yeah, he's
12,
about 1,300 yards already.
Yeah, so he's over 1,300. 2 games left, and look, he's going to play, and they're going to feed him the ball. So yeah, he'll get 15 to 1,600 all-purpose yards, most likely, you would think. Because
he was almost 1,000 last year on limited reps.
Yeah, I know.
This kid's
and he left the game, the first game versus the Patriots. He left in the first quarter when he got the concussion. That first game versus the Patriots, he only had 3 touches for 18 yards. So you can pretty much scrap that game. That's in a 16-game season over 17 weeks. He's going to have this essentially. Let's take out that first Patriots game.
He's incredible, and I will also, we talk about him weekly. Another Chop Robinson sack this week. Zach Sealer gets in the action, gets another sack. Calais Campbell, at 38 years old, is still playing at such a high level. And Jordan Brooks, I think, as much as he called out the team for being soft, that's one voice in that locker room you don't want to say goodbye to. He's a vocal leader on that defense. He's a perfect fit for Anthony Weaver's defense. So overall, is fantastic.
So in the post-game press conference, Tyreek Hill, he had 3 drops today, is blaming all these drops on the fact that he gets every Wednesday off from the coaching staff. So he no longer wants to take Wednesdays off. Mind you, he can tell the coach, if he really wanted to practice on Wednesdays, he could tell the coaching staff, look, I'm practicing on Wednesdays. But this coaching staff gives veteran rest days to pretty much everybody. And he's saying, Tyreek, he's not in a groove because he doesn't practice on Wednesdays and he's not having enough practice reps with Tua. That could be an excuse for the drops. Could be some truth in there. Probably somewhere in the middle.
Probably somewhere in the middle. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Look, he ain't the same player he once was. He's about to cross over, or he already has crossed over to the wrong side of 30. The production's going to go down. It's going to go down. But should it drop off like this? hopefully not what we paid him. But I will say, though, the veteran rest day thing it's tough to stomach. That, part of it is they're afraid of guys getting hurt because they've been burned the past 2 seasons. I get that. Then don't build a roster of old men who can't practice.
Yeah. I agree.
Because the only way these other teams, yes, other teams have injuries too, of course. Here's the deal. But when you practice hard, you might have less of them because your body's more accustomed to taking hits. You build up a callus to the stuff, and it is what it is. So, yeah, that's what it is. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like an excuse from him, but whatever. He's probably right, though.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I would hope that would be one thing that would change next year. Probably not.
It won't,
because there are not going to be any changes. But it's good to see. For the most part, Armstead's been playing most of these games this year. I don't know what he's going to do in the offseason.
Well, here's the deal.
He's going to come back.
This is what I said this week in an article. Everyone assumes he's going to retire. He's leaving a lot of money on the table. He hadn't missed that many games this year. I know there's some games he left early. I get it.
I think he's missed 2 and he left one early.
Here's the deal. He could just say, I ain't retiring. And then what? Because you can't play Patrick Paul at guard. So that's going to make that pick look great. He's going to just show up and say, you can cut me. But with that contract, I don't even know. I mean, they put a void here. See, I would have never have touched his contract last offseason because of this. But they wanted cap space because they wanted to pay everybody. Let me see what his cap space looks like next year. Oh, God. Pre-June 1st is $18 million of dead money. But you can't do it all post-June 1st because it's only 7. But see, that's the problem. They need money to spend in March. You can't wait to June 1st. Yeah, that's easy to do. It's fun. But there's nobody left come June 1st to sign who's any good. You got a bunch of old men who, there's just nobody left. So I don't know. I have no idea what he's going to do. But I wouldn't be shocked if that's a lot of money for a guy who might just be like, you know what? I'll show up. You make the call on me. You cut me, I'll go somewhere else. Or I don't know. We'll see. That's going to be an interesting. This offseason is going to be. That's why I always say subscribe to the podcast, because once the season ends, that's when the real work starts for us, because the news is going to come fast and furious. Are they going to fire any assistants? Who's going to be the fall guy for this year? Not going to be the head coach. Who's going to be the fall guy? Everyone thinks it's going to be Crossman. I doubt that. I could see him back next year too.
No.
I could, but there'll be somebody who'll be gone, like
Big O gave you his reason. Big O gave you his reason that you might have mine.
What's that?
Danny Crossman coming back.
Yeah, I think he's coming back.
Good Lord.
I could see that. I mean, so I know people think, well, come the offseason, there's going to be changes. They're going to have to cut some money to get under the cap. That usually happens in February-ish. And then with 10 draft picks, that's going to be interesting. And with each one of these wins, they're only hurting themselves, honestly. It's going to be a busy offseason. It's going to be an interesting offseason. And I can't wait till Chris Grier has his end-of-season press conference the day after, whenever the season ends, and he meets with the media. Now, he won't give you a straight answer to anything, but I think the media, most of whom in the past week have called for him to be fired, that's going to be, I don't want to say a combative press conference, but it's going to be an interesting press conference, because Chris Grier knows, and he's going to read and see who's saying what about him. And when they ask questions, it's going to be quite the room. I wish I was there that day.
Same. I'm interested to see. I mean, I've done a lot of cap research at this point. I've already got Miami $80 to $85 million in cap space to play with. Obviously, we don't know the exact number of where the cap's going to go next year.
But is that restructuring guys like Tua and Tyreek?
Simple restructures, yes.
I don't want. We didn't even start the contract yet with Tua, and we have to restructure it. See, that's where that's just kicking the can down the road, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure they will, but it's not smart. It's just not smart. It's not smart.
They structured the contract in the way where they can be flexible with it in 2025 because it frees up almost $20 million. So that's part of the reason why it was structured that way. I mean, you can still get out of it in 2026. It's just going to cost a little more at post.
That's what I don't want, because in 2026, that's when you might get the new head coach and a new GM, and I want to give them as many options as possible. I want to let these SOBs, you signed them, you paid them, you win with them. Let's not have to restructure him. You want to restructure Ramsey? Go for it. You want to restructure whoever else? Waddle? Go for it. Him? I don't, because that is too important, in my opinion. And the out there needs to be as clean as it possibly can, because when you move on from the quarterback, when you move on from the head coach and the GM, because spoiler, folks, I really don't think we're going to win a Super Bowl here in the next year or two after 2026 or so. I want to be able to move on from the quarterback too and not have a zillion, and have that like wreck the cap. So I would not touch him. Let him play it the way it is, but I know they probably won't. So we have someone in the chat asking how many picks we have. Right now we have 10. But the majority of them are later. They got one in round 1, one in round 2. They got 2 in round 3, but those 2 in round 3 are compensatories, which is pretty much like the start of round 4. Those are their best picks. After that, they got a bunch in round like 5 and 7 and stuff. But they have 10 right now, which is currency. They can move up and down this board, and he better, because it's not about quantity. It's about quality at this point.
Yes. You got it.
And here's something else with the draft, because we spoke about this on the live stream tonight. Do not get mad if he takes a cornerback in round 1. They need cornerback help. I know fans want every offensive lineman picked in every round. And I get it. I want offensive lineman pick too. But if there's a quality corner there in round 1, don't flip out about the pick. Because like I said, next year, you're going to have Ramsey, and that's it. Kohu, who's been bad this year. Cam Smith is a bust. Kendall Fuller's gone. Ethan Bonner's never active. So they need corner help desperately. So I know fans are going to, because I know how this fan base thinks. They get their head. Yeah, Storm Duck, what's again? He's just a backup. But they get their head set. Every pick has to be an offensive lineman. And if it's not, it's a bad pick. And there goes Chris Grier taking another corner. Yeah, you're right, because they need one.
They do. I think they're going to find their interior. They'll sign
one around 1.
They'll sign an interior offensive guard in free agency. That's where their money is going to be spent. They're going to go for the big fish. No pun. But they're going to go for the big fish offensive lineman in free agency, because they usually never do. But they are going to do that this offseason, in my opinion, because you need a solid right guard and or left guard. I think they're only going to address one. Aaron Brewer's fine. He's your center. He's your guy.
I think they're bringing back when.
Because he's going to be cheap.
Yeah.
And he's going to be depth. So.
No, depth. Start. I think they're bringing back to start.
If that's the case, if he's going to start, great. Now you got your left guard. You put him back at left guard, and then you go sign a right guard for big money. What, Trey Smith, I think, from Kansas City is the guy that's the big name.
Draft one. Or draft a tackle to top of or middle of round 1 that can play guard for a year.
Yeah, get a swing guy. Get a guy that can play guard and play tackle. Find your next Laramie Tunsil that you can trade for 5 draft picks. No, just kidding. But yeah, it's going to be interesting overall on how everything plays out. Obviously, a game next week at 4:05 against Cleveland. They get a win, and if
they might be out of it prior to then.
They could be,
yeah.
But if for whatever reason, the Chargers end up the Broncos end up losing to Cincinnati, which is a plausible thing. Joe Burrow's if they had a top 15 defense, Joe Burrow's the MVP of the NFL this year. That guy is playing out of his mind in Cincinnati, and their defense is the whole reason they're out of it. So it's plausible that Denver can lose in Cincinnati on the road. It is also plausible that Indianapolis could poop the bed in one of their last 2 games.
Not happening, Tom.
As bad as the schedule looks, or easy as the schedule looks, they still have Anthony Richardson, who is a turnover machine.
Tom,
it's
the Giants now have the number 1 pick after today, and
they're gonna lose.
The Giants are gonna, and they did this weeks ago when they went to Tommy DeVito. How you doing? How's the family? Instead of Drew Lock, because they didn't want to have any remote. Now, Locke's been horrible today. He threw 2 pick sixes, horrible. But then they went out and signed Tim Boyle, too. They will, I guarantee, the Giants are going to lay down, as they say, and do the honors to their 2 opponents to lock up that number 1 pick. They want the number 1 pick, and there's no chance of Indianapolis losing to the Giants. Now, maybe Jacksonville, who knows if they got a little spunk in them, but there is 0% chance of the Colts losing to the Giants. There's 0% chance of the Giants winning any of these last 2 games. The Giants today have the number 1 pick. They want the number 1 pick badly. They've been preparing for this the day they cut Daniel Jones, and they finally got it because the Raiders won. So, not happening now. Here's the deal. If the Dolphins lose to Dorian Thompson, whatever his name is, next week's show is going to be more exciting than this one.
Yes. It'll be the end of the season next week for sure. If
they lose to that kid.
Yep. Yeah, it's Miami Dolphins football in December, Mike. Anything's possible. Anything's
possible. Can't
possible.
lose to him, Tom. They can't. Look, I kind of want to lose because at this point, I want the higher pick in the draft. I don't like. What's our gift for making the playoffs? Just go up to Buffalo and lose by 40 again? I'm really not looking forward to watching that. I'm just going to be honest. So I'd rather, but they cannot lose to Dorian Thompson Robinson or whatever his stinking name is. I don't even know anymore. Yeah, we'll see. But hey, I had a great weekend this weekend. I gave you Florida won and covered. I gave you Ohio State. I gave you Texas. Today, I gave you Cincinnati -9. I gave you the Colts -3.5. I had a good weekend. I had a very good week. There'll be a happy Christmas in Mike's house this week. Let's just say that. The only game that really lost me was Indiana, which is okay. It's okay.
And well, since you're going to have a great week, how about give us the Delta news, Mike? You were talking about.
Oh, yes.
The Delta news.
Delta update. Here's the deal. Number 1, 6th rental car still sucks. I hope they get coal in their stocking. They can go to hell and stay there. That's number 1. Number 2, Delta, after my horrible flight situation a few weeks ago, they stepped up. So, long story for people who missed it, flying home after the Jets game that Monday, Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta, Atlanta to Syracuse. Very simple. Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta, smooth as smooth can be, no issues. Get to Atlanta. Flight's supposed to take off at like 3:30, land in Syracuse at 5:30. Flight 3:30 gets pushed back to 3:41. I know that minutes. I'm like, why 3:41, not 3:40? 3:41. Then it gets pushed back to 4:10. Then it gets pushed back to 4:30. Then it gets pushed back to that. Then they finally get everyone on the plane. And everyone's on the plane for 90 minutes. Something's wrong with the plane. We got to get a new part. Blah, blah, blah. Can't find a part. Everyone get off the plane. We're hopeful we can get a new plane. Now, I was supposed to land in Syracuse at 5:30. This is like 7 o'clock at night. I'm back at the same gate in Atlanta. We haven't even. So then they get a plane. We didn't take off to 8:15. Then I'll get home to like 10:15. Next day, send them a message. Delta, fly with you a few times a year. First class, big money. You got to make this right. We're sorry. We understand the inconvenience. We're going to give you 5,000 Sky Miles. Okay, that's a start. Guy goes, here's a link. You might be able to get a refund or a credit for the whole thing, but you got to fill out the link. Goes to a whole different team. Sounds good. Fill out the link. 24 hours later, we're not going to give you a refund. Time out. That's fine. Didn't want a refund. I'll take a credit, though. The guy goes, you know what? That's fair. Let me send this to someone else on his team. Okay, here's what we'll do. We'll give her 3,000 Sky Miles. So now I'm up to 8,000 Sky Miles because they screwed up the second half of the trip, which I think is fair. They did get me home, and the first part of the trip was clean. So I got 8,000 Sky Miles. Delta, it's something, and it was not a huge fight. So kudos to Delta and their customer service. You get 2 thumbs up. But 6 rental car, they still suck, Tom.
They sure do. They suck.
Hey, stink on toast. And for those of you who joined us on Dolphins Talk Extra, the watch along, Josh and Aaron came over to my house. We did light the Odell Beckham Jr. jockstrap candle, and we gave a speech to the football gods to help lift whatever curse is hanging over our team to help. And we apologize for whatever this fan base ever did to bring this 20-plus years of failure to our team. We asked for forgiveness. We said our apology, and then we lit the candle to send the smoke in the air as a sign to the football gods that we are sorry. And we lit that at halftime. And then we went on to win this game and played pretty good football in the second half. So maybe, just maybe, the football gods have released the spirits over this franchise, and we will now be successful heading into 2025. All hail Odell Beckham Jr.
I do have to commend you for having not only Jesus on the Wednesday show with Ian
Santa and Mrs. Claus.
And Mrs. Claus. Mrs. Claus.
Mrs. Claus got salty mouth. You know what? I can play that. I'm probably going to lose the background. Let me see if I can play that for people. Hold on.
Yes. We want to deliver everyone a very Merry Christmas.
Yes.
So Mrs.
Let's
Claus.
I got to go this background to do it, but that's okay. So it's the end of the show. Hold on. Here we go. First, let's play all three, because each one's only like 90 seconds. We're going to end the show this way. First, you're going to hear from Jesus.
Hi, Mike and Ian. I want to wish you both a Merry Christmas from all of your Dolphins Talk podcast listeners. Glad to see that you're feeling better, Ian. You're welcome. You can thank me for that. I know it's the holidays and all, but you Miami Dolphins fans are a bit of an annoying bunch. Every Sunday, you guys are blowing me up with prayers, and look, I'm no miracle worker. Well, okay, actually I am, but I can't spend all day just on your football team. So let's summarize what you all want. Chris Grier, fired. Danny Crossman, fired. Tua, to slide and not turn it over. Yorin Poyer, to retire. And then, of course, Liam Eichenberg, to find a new profession. As always, no promises. We'll see what we can do.
And if that wasn't good enough, later on in the show, we got a visit from the big guy himself, who's very busy this week, Santa.
Merry Christmas, Mike and Ian from the Dolphins Talk podcast listeners. How's it going, guys? Well, Dolphin fans, I know it's been a rough season, you guys. I know your Dolphins haven't done what they were hoped to do this year. I know. There's always next year. I've been getting bombarded with wish lists from the Dolphin fans. Oh, you can imagine. Let's go over a few of those right now. You all want to get rid of Chris Grier. Oh, Chris Grier. It doesn't really matter, does it? He deserves a pink slip. Oh, well, you may not need me for that. He's doing a fine job on his own. Oh, adios. Y'all want me to get Tua some glasses. Oh, so we know who he's throwing the ball to on Sundays. Well, I might be able to help there. And what about if I just take Liam Eichenberg off your hands and give him a job at the North Pole? That'll solve some problems. Wonderful, guys. Well, we've got a lot to hope for next season. You never know, right? Oh, hope springs eternal. All right, guys, be good. Well, I thought it was spring. Well, maybe it is hope. Oh, hope in one hand and, well, in the other. Anyway, Dolphin fans, be good. I'll see you Christmas Eve. Don't forget my cookies. All right, guys. Merry Christmas.
And then
That's phenomenal.
the closer, the closer and the headliner. And if you have little kids listening in the car, if you're driving around, this is earmuffs time. This one's not for little kids. To close out the show, Mrs. Claus.
Well, Merry Christmas, Mike and Ian. It's me, Mrs. Claus. I'm coming to you from the North Pole at my Christmas castle. Santa would love to be here to speak with you as well, but Christmas Day is upon us very soon, and so he's out in the workshop with the elves, the whiny little motherfucking elves that are a pain in my ass, and they're allegedly working on the toys. I don't know. I don't give a fuck that they're in the reindeer barn doing gay things. Who cares? Because I'm in a new era myself. It's all about me now. No more cooking, baking, and all of that shit for Santa. And it's all about my facelift. Can you tell? And all the work I've done on myself to move forward. Back to you. I see you guys are both big Miami Dolphins fans. Let me tell you something about your Dolphins. See, years ago, I tried out to be a Dolphins cheerleader, and those bitches cut me from the squad. Well, since then, I've made sure Stephen Ross, Chris Grier, and all those Dolphin cheerleader bitches are on Santa's fucking naughty list. Yeah, I mean, it is the one time in my life I want to step out from Santa's shadow, not stand behind his big fat ass, and the bitches cut me? The nerve of them. I mean, I've had Botox, had work done on the girls, can you tell? I even had BBL. Huh. Well, I'm sorry if I'm not sympathetic to your plight of the Dolphins fans. So enjoy your coal. Merry fucking Christmas.
Yeah, Mrs. Claus. Who knew Mrs. Claus had BBL? I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Amazing.
Amazing. So, yeah, that was our Christmas show. We had some special guests. But, yeah, everyone, thank you for listening to tonight's show. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Enjoy some time with the families. Don't think about this team for a few days. Just don't let it ruin you. I know they won today, but still, it's still just it's been a miserable season. Don't let this team ruin your holiday season. We'll be back next week after Dolphins Browns. We'll have a few podcasts this week. I know the holiday kind of screws up the schedule. We'll have a few shows. I don't know who's going to be hosting, but we'll have a few shows during the week if there's any news breaking or anything. So be on the lookout for that. Also, we're up for 2 sports podcast awards. That's right. Not 1, but 2. And I put the links here in the chat. So if you can just click them real quick, vote for us. Takes a second. It's free. Really much appreciate it. And that's all from today's show. So everyone, have a great Sunday night. Have a great Monday. We'll talk to you again after a while. Folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.
Fins up. Merry Christmas.